latest rumblings. They're going on and on, these, aren't they, over France's budget?
Yes, so just today the French finance minister says that there'll be no new taxes or spending cuts added to the 2015 budget. Now that's after reports that European officials are ready to reject the country's spending plans for next year. Now, the draft budget shows that Paris won't now meet the EU's deficit target of less than 3% of GDP until 2017. That's 2 years later than planned. This morning, new figures show that the budget deficit here rose by €500 million in the past year to just over 94 billion at the end of August. Speaking on French radio, the finance minister Michel Sapin says France can't tighten its belt anymore.
Do you think we're going to tax people more money? Saving €21 billion was already difficult enough, and there's already a reaction from families and local communities. Listen to them. Whether they're from the right or the left, they're telling us, what, you're asking us to save more money? Yes, everyone should be doing it because public spending has increased too. But when we're initiating lower taxes, do you think we're now going to turn around and say, no, they're going to increase? No.
Now, France's nominee to the European Commission, Pierre Moscovici, will also have to answer questions about this later this Tuesday. Here's our correspondent in Brussels, Maeve McMahon, with more.
Pierre Moscovici just had to fill out some 22 questions, a written questionnaire that he was given last week, and he has until 6 o'clock this evening to fill that out. Then a decision will be taken on whether he will be given the job or not. Now, in those questions, he's asked things like, how can he tell other countries how to get their books in order when he, according to MEPs, when Finance Minister of France for 2 years, did not manage to get his country back on track? Just to give you a taste of an exact question they've asked in that questionnaire, one of them is, what action should apply to member states whose deficit is constantly above 3% of GDP and has already been given an extension of the deadline to bring it down to Maastricht levels? He's asked then, under what circumstances would you argue for more time or for more sanctions? So just a flavour of what's in store for him on that questionnaire. Just to remind you, if he does get the job, he will, of course, be supervised by two what many call fiscal hawks, the Latvia's Vladas Dombrovskis, who was, of course, the former Latvian Prime Minister. He's been hailed yesterday by the EPP group as Mr. Euro. He sailed through his hearing. And then, of course, Finland's Jyrki Katainen. So although he'll sit in the Eurogroup on behalf of the EU, he won't have as much control as he may like.
Maeve McMahon there in Brussels talking to us a little bit earlier on. Let's have a look at the markets then.
Well, here in Europe, it's a negative start to the trading day on the markets here. Shares, I can tell you, in the mining company Rio Tinto are up around 6% in London now after news that it had rejected a merger offer from rival Glencore. And also Air France KLM here in Paris have opened up over 2%. That's after JP Morgan raised its investment rating for the airline. Over in Asia, shares in Hong Kong up again today. Investor confidence does seem to be returning after those protests are calming down in the territory. The Hang Seng up around 0.5%, just under 0.5%, as you can see. Their markets in mainland China, though, still closed for the national holiday period.
Now, one company that is not having a great day is Samsung.
Yeah, the South Korean electronics firm has warned that its profit has slumped by 60% in the 3 months to the end of September. The company suffered from falling sales of its smartphone, a sector where it's the market leader. Yuka Royer has more.
It's likely the widest fall in Samsung's earnings history. The Korean electronics giant estimates its revenue for the July-September quarter at 47 trillion won, a 20% drop from the same period last year. The operating profit was hit even harder, plunging almost 60% year-on-year. Sluggish sales of its recent smartphone model, Galaxy S5, coupled with the cost of aggressive marketing, are to blame, says the company. The mobile market has become increasingly saturated in recent years. Samsung, the #1 smartphone maker, has been facing fierce competition. Apple's latest iPhone 6 Plus is set to take away some Galaxy users who chose it for its bigger screen. In emerging markets like China and India, local rivals have been growing fast. Huawei, China's leading phone maker, has nearly tripled its global market share in the last 3 years. Samsung warns weak performance may continue towards the end of the year, but says it's taking countermeasures. The company started selling its latest Galaxy in China before Apple and will launch a new lineup of cheaper smartphones soon.
Now then, finally, a famous French brand is heading to the most famous Paris address.
Yeah, that's right. The department store Galeries Lafayette is set to open on the Champs-Élysées in Paris for the first time in the company's 87-year history. The firm's in exclusive talks to take over the lease at number 52. That's the site of the former Virgin megastore. It says the lease should be signed by the end of this year and that its Champs-Élysées store would be a new flagship for the brand alongside its iconic location in the Upper District.
Exactly. It's got another one in Montparnasse, isn't it? So it'd be the third Galeries Lafayette in Paris. Thanks a lot, Stephen. Going to have a look at the headlines around the world now. Lots of papers focusing on the advance, of course, this Islamic State group in Syria, aren't they, Flo?
Absolutely.